Hello students and welcome to the lecture. So students, as we know that we are covering the scheduled and the tribal areas, right? This is the topic on which we have been discussing. Within this particular series of the scheduled and the tribal areas, all of these are the topics we have scheduled for the discussion, like starting with the introduction part, thereafter the scheduled areas in India and overview of it, then the criteria for the identification of the scheduled area, then the constitutional provisions and the governance, then concerns related to the scheduled area, then the administration of the scheduled areas, then scheduled tribes, then the general concerns of the tribal community, then addressing the challenges, then significance of the indigenous communities, then the problems that are being faced by the tribal groups, then the conclusion, and the administration of the tribal areas. Okay, so these are the topics we have scheduled for the discussion. If we talk about the topic that we have covered so far, so basically we have done with the introduction part, then we have done with the scheduled areas in India and overview of it. We have done with the criteria for the identification of scheduled area, then the constitutional provisions and the governance, then concerns related to the scheduled area, then the administration of the scheduled areas, then the scheduled tribes. Okay, then the topic on which we are discussing right now, this is the general concerns of the tribal community. Then the remaining topics, or you can say the topics we are left with, this is addressing the challenges, significance of the indigenous communities, problems being faced by the tribal groups, conclusion, and the administration of the tribal areas. Okay, so this is the picture we have created so far altogether. Basically, in this lecture, we will start from where we had left. Okay, like industrial pollution we had discussed in the previous lecture, and the land and resource rights also we have discussed. Now, if we talk about the legal protections, okay, if we talk about the legal protection under the series of the scheduled and tribes and the topics of the general concerns of the tribal community, then again you will get the same kind of thought that we had with the agriculture, industry, and land rights. Like if we're talking about the legal protection, so basically we're talking about like what are the legal safeguards available for the scheduled and tribals to protect themselves. Okay, so if there are the legal protections and the legal rights for them, then why we are talking about the concerns, like how these legal protections could be the concerns for the tribal community, how they could be. That is an important thing. And when we try to understand it, so basically we have to deal with the land rights and the displacement. Okay, like as I have told you, or like we have been discussing since the starting, basically the tribals are living in the forest is the home. They are not only dependent on the forest for their survival, but also dependent for the livelihood. Okay, and the one thing that we had discussed in the previous lecture was the land rights and the security of tenure. Like, however, the tribals were living in the forest for over the centuries. Okay, but they do not have that kind of legal system with them in the forest that is working in the country. Okay, like I had given an example. If you go to buy a home, okay, and if you claim that you are the owner of that home, then in the eyes of law, you should be the registered owner of that home on the legal document. If you do not have that kind of thing, you are not the legal owner. Okay, and if you are not the legal owner, then what will happen? No legal safeguards are for you, right? That is the thing. Similar thing is also for the land. If you claim that you own that particular land, you must be the owner or legal owner. If you are not the legal owner, you do not own that land. Okay. Similarly, you can say basically when we talk about the legal terms, then the owner of that land, of that building would be the one who having the legal registration in his name regarding that particular thing. Okay. And the tribals and the schedules do not follow the same legal system as we follow in the country. Okay. Like they are owing the land from their ancestors, or you can say their ancestors have transferred the land to him. Okay. But that person not registered the land in the terms of law that we have in the country. Why? Because they do not follow the customs and the laws that we are having. If they were following the same, then they should be in the mainstream, right? So basically, their lands could be encroached by the external entities easily. And even at some times, you can say there is a case of no compensation. Okay. Why? Because the action entities could use the loopholes in the laws and can prove that the person who is demanding the compensation for being displaced or because his land has been encroached, that person is not the legal owner of that land he claims to be. He is not owing that land in the terms of law. Okay, that was the thing. So here now, after revising little bit the previous, if we come to this, then the first thing that we are seeing here is the right to fair compensation and the Transparency Land Acquisition, Rehabilitation and Resettlement Act 2013. Okay. However, I had told you this thing in the previous lecture also, but here if we have got it another time, that we will do it again. Okay. So here you will see that there are several things in this one particular act, like the first, fair compensation. Second, transparency in the land acquisition. Third, rehabilitation and the resettlement. Okay. How many things you have got here? Three things: fair compensation, transparency in land acquisition, and the rehabilitation and resettlement. If we talk about the first one, that is the first, fair compensation. What is the meaning of this? What is the meaning? Like I have told you, whenever any mining activity is to be there, whenever any external entity, you can say not the mining activities, whenever any external entity that not belong to the schedule and the tribal area wants to have some land of the tribals or want the land that is originally inhabited by the tribals. Okay, then the tribals would be displaced from the place. Why? Because their land would be given to that external entity. So basically, they are required to pay some compensation. This compensation is basically for the, you can say, giving the land to that external entity from the tribals. Okay, and this compensation is calculated on the certain basis. And what are these bases? First base is the market value. It means what is the market value of that land. Okay, like you can say if the market value is 20 lakhs, then the land could not be bought from the tribal at 50 lakhs or at 10 lakhs. Why? Because this amount, this compensation amount of 10 lakh or 15 lakh is below the market value. One thing is clear. Okay. Second, if we talk about the another criteria that we have is the certain percentage, or you can say certain multiplication we do with the market value while paying the fair compensation. And it is variable on the basis of rural and the urban area. It is variable on the basis of rural and the urban area. Now you are required to tell me on which basis the rural area will multiply with the market value, or in which basis the urban area will multiply with the market value. That is already I had told you in the previous lecture, so I'm not asking it from somewhere outside. Okay, that is already what we have covered. So again, what the same criteria we have, 30 seconds you guys will have to think and answer. Okay, and your time is going to be start now. Just think about it. If you have revised the previous lecture, you will be able to give the right answer. If you haven't revised the previous lecture, the thing will be hard for you. That's clear cut mentioned. Okay. The 10 seconds have been passed off. Last 20s are remaining. Just think about it. Okay. The time is going to be up. Last 10 seconds are there. All right. The time's up. The correct answer is when we talk about the rural areas. So multiplication will be due by 5 times. And when we talk about the urban areas, the multiplication will be done by the 2 times. For example, if the market value is rupees 10 lakhs and the land is in the rural area, okay, then by the multiplication of 5 into 10, how much amount will be given as a compensation? 50 lakhs. It means that 5 times of the market value. Similarly, when we talk about the urban area, all right, so 2 times multiplication is there. So you can say, suppose if the market value is 30 lakhs. Why? Because in the urban areas, the market value is usually higher. If the market value is 30 lakhs, by the multiplication of 2 into 30, what will be the compensation amount? 60 lakhs will be the compensation amount. Okay. So that is the thing. On the multiplication of 5 in rural areas, on the multiplication of 2 in the urban areas, in terms of which? In terms of the market value would be given to the person, okay, as in compensation. Along with this compensation, sometimes EDR also given. Okay. What is the EDR? What is the form of EDR in the terms of compensation? To answer this question, 30 seconds you have. Time starts now. EDR also I have told you, so I'm not asking it from outside. That's again. Okay. Just think about it. Think clearly. You will get the answer if you have revised the lecture. 10 seconds have been passed. Last 20 are remaining. Last 10 seconds are there. The time is going to be up. Think faster. All right, the time's up. The correct full form of the EDR is emotional damage recovery. Emotional damage recovery. E for emotional, D for damage, R for recovery. Okay. So what is this? Basically, under this, you can say provision, we assume the person who was owing that land since the starting is having some emotional cover to it, because usually the person has got it from the ancestor. Like you can say, if you are living in your home, okay, that is your Pushtani home, you can say, and that is your ancestral home, you can say. Okay, the home has been passed to you from one generation to second generation, second to third generation, like this. Okay, so obviously you have some emotional connection with that home. Why? Because your ancestors were living there, you are living there, your upcoming generation will also be living there if you do not sell it. And if you sell the home due to some reason, okay, so basically you will get some emotional damage. Why? Because that home is basically belong to your ancestors and you have so many memories with it. Not even the ancestral, you can say. Even if you build a new home by yourself, for example, if you build a new home by yourself, then even you will have some memories, even you have some dreams. Emotionally, you are connected with that thing. Similar thing happens with the tribals. Why tribals are more connected? Because the tribals are living in the cutoff. They are not so much deep into these things. So basically, their emotional cover is higher than the usual. All right. So basically, the EDR is given in these cases along with the compensation. Okay. So if I ask you, like, what is the percentage of EDR that is given? Then what is the percentage? Again, 30 seconds, time starts now. This is what also I have told you, so I'm not asking it out from somewhere else. Okay. These all things are basically we have covered. Okay. 10 seconds have been passed. Last 20s are remaining. Just think fastly. Last 10 seconds are there. All right, the time is going to be up. The time's up. The correct answer is the 100% of the compensation amount. ADR is the 100% of the compensation amount. So you can say if the compensation amount was 50 lakhs in the case of rural area. Why? Because the market value was 10, 5 into 10, 50 lakhs. Then 100% of this would be 50 lakhs. 50 plus 50, how much it is? 1 crore. So total 1 crore would be given to the person from whom the land has been taken over. That includes the compensation amount as well as ADR. When we compare it with the urban area where the compensation amount was 60 lakhs. Why? Because the market value was 30. 2 into 30, 60 lakhs would be the compensation amount. 100% of this would be 60. 60 plus 60 would be 120. And if we track it down, so total 1 crore 20 lakhs would be given to the person from whom the land has been taken over as an fair compensation along with the ADR. Clear? ADR and the fair compensation clear? Now comes with the transparency in the land acquisition. Transparency and land acquisition. So basically, when we talk about the land acquisition, like you can say, suppose there is some XYZ company that comes to the tribal area and the company demands that they require some land from the tribals. Why? Because they want to do some industrial activity, mining activity over there. So basically, that would be called the land acquisition. Okay, why? Because the XYZ is acquiring the land that was originally inhabited by the tribals from whom the land has been taken over. All right. So there should be the transparency in this. Okay. Okay. There is a one thing like if we talk about the land acquisition, then I have told you if the private company is approaching for the land acquisition, then there should be a certain percentage of the families that must be agree with this acquisition. And if the PPP, public private partnership company is going for the land acquisition, then again the certain percentage of families would be agree for this. What is the percentage? To answer this question, you will have 30 seconds and your time basically starts now. Okay, 10 seconds have been passed, last 20s are remaining. Just think about it. Okay, last 10 seconds are there. All right, the time's up. The correct answer is when it is a matter of private company. Almost how many? At least 80% of the families must be in favor. How many families? 80%. When it is a matter of PPP, public private partnership, at least 70% of the affected families must be agree. Okay. And whose permission is required? Which organization permission is the most, or you can say which organization plays a must role in this? To answer this question, again, I will grant you 30 seconds to think and answer, then I will give you the answer. And your time is going to be start now. Just think about it. All right, the 10 seconds have been passed off. Last 20s are remaining. Just think faster. Last 10 seconds are there. All right, the time's up. So basically, the Gram Sabha's permission is required. The Gram Sabha's permission is necessary. Okay. The Gram Sabha's permission is necessary. And which particular act made it necessary? Which particular act made it necessary? To answer this question, you will again have 30 seconds. All right. And your time is going to be start now. Just think about it. Again, I have told you the same thing. Okay. And you can say that we have discussed this thing for almost 2 to 4 times. So there is no doubt about it. Okay. The 10 seconds have been passed off. Last 20s are remaining. Think faster. All right. Last 10 seconds are there. The time is going to be up. Okay. The time's up. The correct answer is the PAISA Act. Okay. PASA stands for the Panchayat Extension to the Scheduled Areas. That act was passed in the year of 1996, okay, after the recommendation of a committee. Now the next question is that which committee recommended the PASA Act? 30 seconds, time starts now. And this is also we have discussed for the 3 to 4 times, so there is no acceptance for the giving wrong answer. Okay, 10 seconds have been passed, last 20 are remaining. Just think about it. All right, last 10 seconds are there. The time is going to be up soon. Just think faster. All right, the time's up. The correct answer is the Bhuria Committee. Dilip Singh Bhuria Committee in the 1996 recommended for the PASA Act. All right, and that PASA Act made it compulsory that the Gram Sabha would plays a significant role in order for the land acquisition and other kinds of things that are basically related with the tribals in the schedule and the tribal areas. Okay. So basically the Gram Sabha is the body that ensures that there must be a transparency in the land acquisition. And the another thing that we have is the rehabilitation and the resettlement. So basically, if any company or any corporation wants to acquire the land of the scheduled and the tribals, okay, so they are just not only required to pay the fair compensation, emotional damage recovery, okay, acquire the land, but also they are required to ensure the rehabilitation and the resettlement. Ensure the rehabilitation and the resettlement. And how this could be ensured? Like if they were living in the place A, for example, if they were living in the place A and then they were asked to leave the place A and move somewhere else. For example, place C they are moving. So whatsoever they are having in the place A, like they having the households, they having the agriculture fields, they having the other kind of things for the survival, all of these things must be given in the place C where they are moving. That is what we call rehabilitation and the resettlement. So here I have explained you the act and the provisions of it in a proper manner. Like what do you mean by the fair compensation? What do you mean by the land acquisition transparency? What do you mean by the rehabilitation and the resettlement? But why it is an issue? Now you will say that all these are the better provisions for the schedule and tribals. And even there is a one thing that I forgot, and that was timely, you can say, resolution. Like basically, there is no unlimitedness that will be provided for the entity that is taking over the land. There is a time boundness. It means that within a certain particular time, the entity is required to give the fair compensation, required to show the transparency in the land acquisition, required for the rehabilitation and the resettlement. Okay. So basically, this act aims to ensure the fair compensation and the rehabilitation, okay, for those who displaced by the land acquisition, like as we have just discussed. But the main issue comes from here. However, the implementation is often inadequate. It means that there are various provisions, various things on paper, but when they are to be shown on ground, then these are generally inadequate. These are generally inadequate. And many tribal communities, okay, who do not receive the protection and the compensation, like we know, almost certain percentage of the tribal and the scheduled population is there in the India that does not falls under the definition of the scheduled and the tribal as per the article 244 of the constitution. And what is the percentage of that population? Again, this is the question for you. To answer this question, you will have 30 seconds to think and answer. Time starts now. Just think about it. 10 seconds have been passed off, last 20s are remaining. Okay, and almost this question we have discussed for 4 to 3 times, so there is nothing that you want people to answer it. Okay, 20 seconds have been passed, last 10 seconds are there. Just think faster. Okay, the time is going to be up and the time's up. The correct answer is almost the 59% of the tribal population is the population that does not falls under the category of Article 244 because of the threshold of population percentage. And that basically restricted the protection and the compensation that has been promised in the various laws and all in India to be granted to them. Why? Because they do not fall under that category. Okay, so here we have finished the right to fair compensation. Secondly, second thing that we are required to discuss is the Biological Diversity Act of 2002. While this act seeks to conserve the biological diversity and ensure the sustainable use of its component, okay, the indigenous communities do not benefit from the act due to the lack of awareness, bureaucratic hurdles, and the inadequate implementation. Okay, like if we talk about the biological diversities and the forest act and these, so basically these acts are not only provided for the welfare of the forest and all, these are also provided for the safeguards of the rights of the tribal community who are originally inhabited the forest areas. Okay, because as per the biodiversity conservation, normally what we assume to restrict the human activity there. Okay, and this could be ensured by pulling out each and every human from that area. Generally, that is the provision. Okay, but if we pulls out the tribals from that area in which they are living, do you think that will be a good? No. Why? Because the tribals have been living there in the forest for the centuries. And if we pulls them out from here, then basically they will lose their home. All right. So basically, under the Biological Diversity Act 2002, we provided for the biological conservation, but we also ensured the safeguards for the rights of the tribal community. Okay. But still, like you can say, we have these provisions on paper, but still, when we talk about the ground or the ground realities, so the tribal communities are not benefit from this. Why? Due to the lack of awareness they having. Okay, because of the bureaucratic hurdles in the implementation, and again the inadequate implementation. All right, so these are the things. So students, basically in this lecture we have finished till here. In the next lecture we will continue from here. Just revise the facts and figures we have discussed in this lecture. Be ready for the next lecture. With this note, let's end this lecture and thank you.